All righty, you guys. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody is well. We are here today with a very important topic. And as you guys know, I am here in Mauritius, Africa. And I have a couple of young ladies that are here with me. And we've kind of ran across paths. And we are here to talk about something that I've not heard being talked about yet. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. The emotional side of moving. And it's not, I don't want you guys to think it's just to Africa. It's moving abroad anyway. Excuse me, rather it's Asia, rather it's Thailand, rather it's Africa, rather it's Portugal, just moving to another location, picking up everything and just moving. The emotional part of that, how is it with your kids? If you have children, how is it with your, some of us have grown kids, some of us have family members that we left behind. So we're just going to get some ideas, some advice, a little bit of background, checking emotionally how everybody is that did make that move. And we have a couple of people with us, a couple of guests, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, the ministry. I know one has a ministry, and I'm going to let her introduce her ministry, introduce herself and her website or her YouTube page if she has one, her ministry. And then we're going to, go on with the conversation. Miss Lorraine, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So I am also here in Mauritius, Africa as well. About, let me see, a month and a half, almost going on 2 months here. And this is a great conversation to have live and talk about. I've been wanting to talk about this, but I've been doing a little bit of writing about it through Substack. You can find me on Substack under Graceful Guidance. I also, yes, I do have a ministry called Graceful Guidance Ministry, which is geared towards assisting and walking with parents of special needs, particularly autism, but not just autism, any type of disability. If a parent is struggling, needs prayer, would like some coaching, mentoring, I offer just even counsel if they want to have a phone call. I just did a phone call with a woman back in February who she is the guardian for her niece, and she needed some help with navigating the legal system in America and how she could get some things done. So I even do that type of counsel. I also have a YouTube channel called Graceful Guidance, and you can find me there. And Journey Unto You, which is also a YouTube channel. Journey Unto You is a little different in that is specifically just for parents of special needs and caregivers. And it's designed, it's podcast style. So it's designed just simply to listen to and be encouraged while you're cleaning, driving, busy, because most of us are time deficit. So I made it particularly for that person. And also I interview parents who have special needs on there. There are some interviews. I intend to continue that process, and they get to share their stories, which is really helpful and also part of the healing process to be able to just talk about it and have a safe place to do that. And also you can find me on Facebook under Graceful Guidance as well, where I do post videos and the writings from Substack about my journey here, and from time to time, just encouragement for parents with special needs. You're on mute.
Thank you. The podcast, Journey Unto You. When do you, what times and what days do you go on for that?
Yeah, so that's very random. When it used to be I'm going to get back to once a week. I was doing once a week before I moved here. I kind of had to slow down just to focus on getting us here. I am here with my youngest child, so it was a lot to get here, and I know we're going to get into that. But we're getting back into once a week with Journey Unto You, and also Graceful Guidance if I can muster both.
You got it.
And some upcoming, and some upcoming interviews with some other families that have agreed.
Awesome. Now, Miss Spring.
Hello, Lorraine. Hello, Cassie.
Hello.
I'm here in Mauritius also, and it's been about 6 weeks tomorrow. Been a lot to digest, but I think your reason for coming has to be stronger and more important than your reason for staying. And because of that, I was able to pack my life up in suitcases and haul them across the world, 9,500 miles away to do so. It's been exciting. It's been some things that are changes, um, and I appreciate the change and the new adventure I'm on. So I think my main thing is, like I said, your reason for leaving has to be stronger than your reason for staying. You have to be ready to embrace changes, small changes that you just don't even understand. Why don't I have a mailing address? And I'm still in search for that mailing address. So I call it a Nancy Drew mystery and finding out the things that I need to find out. But the thing that works in my favor is that I'm that person who likes to search for things and find them. So I find products here. I find what's not here, which is shea butter. In Mauritius, Africa, there's no shea butter. Go, go explain that to me. I haven't figured that one out yet. But, I don't have a whole lot to say, but if anybody has any questions or I think of something along the way, I'd be glad to share. I just want to give information to other folks so they will know that they're going to have something to think about. Yeah. I would have been coming all by myself, but I had an expat community who was already here, and I ended up rooming with Cassie. It was a soft landing for me because if I had not roomed with her, I thought about where would I be in my head listening to my own voice every day by myself. And so that's where you have to be creative. You have to go for walks. You have to see things. You have to speak in French and say bonjour to someone when you know no other words in French that you're going to say to them after that. Um, it's exciting. I'm glad I did it, and I still would do it again. All right, I'm good.
Okay. Well, now I have some questions, and you can each one of you guys can answer the questions. Just put your heart into it. And the first question is, what brought you here to Africa? Why Africa? Why? Did you know anything about Mauritius when you decided, oh, I'm coming to Mauritius? And either one, whoever wants to answer that first. You can go to one.
Sure, I'll go first. So I had no idea what Mauritius, Africa was less than a year ago. I knew that the father was doing something because I was listening to the master's voice, and she had spoken about, some of the things that were going on, and a series of some of her videos that I was listening to. And one of them, she talked about, getting passports, and that especially stuck out to me. And I was actually on my way to work that morning, and I knew that the father was telling me, get your passports. I took it personal, that it was a direct word to me, but nothing to do with Mauritius. I wasn't thinking that far. I just knew that he was maybe going to have me go somewhere and maybe, I don't know, do something in another country, come back home, Charlotte be my home base. I was not on that level at all. So I did eventually go ahead and get the passports for myself, my two younger children, and kind of just sat with it. I just kept working. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't doing any Google searches or anything. And one day I came upon a channel that has now grown. It's grown quite a bit this past year, Journey with Us. And just saw these two people on there, and I was like, well, what's Mauritius? And they were talking about migrating to Mauritius, and it just caught my attention. But it was the Father, it was the Lord who put that there. And I began to listen, and I maybe listened to 2 videos, and I instantly knew. I said, this is where he's taking me. And I logged off at one of the videos, and I looked on the Google Maps and saw this little teeny tiny place. You could barely recognize it. If you blink, you'll miss it. And I was like, what? What is this place? And so I looked all these pictures, and I said, oh, this is actually quite beautiful. And just started really researching it, but I knew. And I sat with it for a while because I was also doing other things. I was getting my home ready to be an AFL provider. And I was starting to care for a young man every other weekend with Down syndrome in my home, giving his caregiver a break. I was also working in clinic and in-home therapy and in a preschool as a registered behavior technician. So I had just started my podcast. I was doing something completely different, just setting myself up, doing what the Lord told me to. I was involved in a street ministry for the homeless, and just it was almost like a record scratch, just change of plan, change of direction. This is what we're doing. I had just become the children's director at a really small grassroots fellowship. So I was like, oh, wow. So I had to make sure that I sat with the Father with it. I didn't say a word to anybody for 2 months, and just fasted and prayed and waited till I got confirmation. And by about month 2, I knew. I said, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to go. And then I think I had already seen a video with you, because I believe you were already here, Cassie. And I thought, well, she seemed a little open. Maybe I'll reach out to her. And I don't even know how I got in contact with you, to be honest. Oh, I know, because I had already reached out to Tiffy and Harold and booked a session with them just to get more information, and they brought me into the group, and I think that's how I reached out to you. So I just started the process one little bit at a time. I was very overwhelmed with the process. There's a lot to know, a lot to do. The Lord just basically told me, people have asked me, well, why here, why there? I don't know, because God said. I mean, but I also knew that He has a plan for His people to leave the Babylonian system. And I knew it was a layered reason. It wasn't just one reason, but I was struggling also with giving people reasons, because I knew that some people weren't ready for the answer, but I also knew that other people wanted an organized answer, because so many people are so used to the organization of the church and missions and bringing a ministry into another country. And I didn't have a plan. I was on God's plan. So I could only tell people what the Father had revealed to me. So that's how I got to Mauritius, and here I am.
Spring, your turn. What brought you here, and why Mauritius? Why?
I also have been looking at videos. I looked at Journey with Us, and it was Harold and Tiffany who gave us a platform on what countries were going to be safe and most easy, or how they were going to work for us. Who wants to go somewhere and just end up in the wrong place and make such a move? I didn't. So I kind of listened to them. I took a course with them. I studied Mauritius. I knew that there were 10 farms here before I even got here because I had studied that deeply. Still not enough, but enough to get me around. I always wanted to live somewhere else, but I found out that the world was giving me more reasons than ever to want to live somewhere else. When you mix what you see and what's going on with everyone in America, and you look at the Bible, it's time to go. And I struggle with that. I'm 68 years old. I'm moving across the world by myself, and in all my little 68 years in the suitcases that I'm carrying, I'm not going to tell you how many suitcases I brought because people said, just bring your clothes, just bring, bring what's important to you because you're not going back to get it probably, okay? Drag it now because you're not going to drag it later. So I look at the fact that I was always trying to get well, ill from one thing or another, and the poisonous in everything in the United States and in the food and the water. And I went out because I moved to the country a few years ago, and I looked out in the sky, and every morning they're spraying, and it was just all too much, everything, not even knowing whether you're going to be able to afford the rising hatred and watching people around you lose their jobs and lose their homes and the laws that are just not for people anymore, just not for anybody's survival. Um, I decided to do it. I bought one ticket and I canceled it within 24 hours so I wouldn't have to pay for it. But then I booked another ticket and I sat there and I looked at that one and I was like, okay. Then I booked another ticket. I had tickets to leave. And then I said, okay, this is the one right here. The prices are rising. The turmoil is happening. The United States had already done their invasion of South America and Argentina and the oil. And then I saw what happened to Cuba, and I said, that's enough. Because this little country and these people are dying, and they don't have to. The heartlessness, it's time to go and try something else. And so here I am, without regret, definitely with challenge. But when I arrived to the airport, it just seemed like something was lifted off of me. And I haven't looked back in that manner. I would like to have some of the things I left behind that I want. But I don't know if they're ever going to be shipped to me. I'll get over it. I don't care. I got more stuff in the world. And so I'm just finding the joy and peace in life that was so challenging. I was sort of a junior prepper in my mind at home. I mean, I learned how to make heaters out of flower pots and out of clay flower pots and food storage and which foods you should keep and this and that and that. And I had a home with a beautiful yard and a little view of the creek and quiet. I left it all behind. No regrets. No regrets. And I just think you just have to find your peace in the world. And I have found my peace so far. 6 weeks have zoomed by. Zoomed by, it's like it's daybreak. It's nightfall. And I don't know if it's because I spend so much time calculating when I can call this person in California, this person in Belize, that person in Maryland, this person in New York, that person in Texas, because they're all in different time zones. But I just tell everybody, think about what you want to do. Try something new. If you want to go back to America, it's still going to be there. I don't know what kind of America it'd be. It's not the same as when I grew up. And I don't think it ever will be again, but try something new. I hope that answered your question because I just rattle on. Got too many thoughts. All right, I'm done.
Yes, you did answer my question, and you answered the other one I was going to ask you. Do you have any regrets? So I'll ask you, Ms. Lorraine, do you have any regrets, and how has that move been for you?
Okay. Regrets, no. But have I thought about booking a plane ticket to come back home? Yeah, a gazillion times. But I keep going back to what like Spring mentioned. You have to know why you're here. It has to be stronger than going back. And for me, it was layered, very much so, even all the way down to my son, because I was seeing the American system just infiltrate his character, and all the hard work that I had done as a homeschooling mom was just, it just looked like it was for naught. You know, it was being destroyed and slowly torn down. So there was that element. I was working so hard. And at that time, I was actually starting to come out of the workforce. I had gone down to 15 hours a week. I was really starting to go down part-time, and I was able to start doing some of the other things that I really wanted to do, but I was still exhausted. I still wasn't, you know, there was more to it. It was the environment. It's the minute you walk out the door and you just, you feel like you're walking into your mind being biologically warfared consistently. And also putting all that stuff aside, financially, I was drowning. You know, I was making okay money, but I didn't have anything to show for it. And I too was prepping a little bit. I was getting back into my prepping. I had sold some things, but see, the Father had already been working me out. He was already transitioning me to different states and getting me ready for this big one. I didn't know that, but he did. But the final piece to all of that was that he told me to. And him and I have an agreement that I will go where he tells me to go. This was way before I knew I was doing anything. I will go where he tells me to go and speak when he tells me to speak. And I am holding up my end of the bargain. And I didn't think that, you know, going to Mauritius was such a bad idea. It wasn't that I was like, you know, resisting him. I thought it was actually kind of a pretty little place to go to. I said, well, it certainly could be worse. I could really be going to someplace kind of wild and crazy that a plane has to drop me off there or something, you know. I didn't see it as bad coming here. So do I have regrets? No, I do not have any regrets obeying the Father in heaven whatsoever. And if he tells me to shift again, I'll do it again and again and again and again until he says, okay, we're all done. But yes, you know, like Spring mentioned, do I miss some things? Yes, I miss my late 4th of July chips desperately. I miss my Vitamin Water Zero desperately. But those things got traded in for a fresh fig tree in my yard that I go out and pick fresh figs, and some fresh leaves that I can cook in with my lentil soup. Things like that. It just, the Father has replaced it with things that we need. I have not seen one chemtrail since I've been here. And we're breathing fresh air, and my therapy is kind of free. I kind of just walk about a block, and and the ocean and the waves are very healing for your spirit. And that has been the one consistent thing that has been, that really has been, I get to go down there and just let the Father just fill me with his air, just what he designed naturally. So do I have regrets? No, I don't. Even though there's days I hate it. I hate it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't like it here. You know, and I have all these reasons, and they're probably legit. But at the end of the day, no regrets.
All righty, one more. Well, I have a few more, but you said that you would do it again. Would you do it again? If you could do it all over again, would you come back here or would you go somewhere else? And that's going to be a question for both you guys.
Would I do it again? Yes. Yes. Got to start somewhere. Start here. And I feel like starting over gives you an opportunity to do anything. I've always been a creative person. A lot of people have seen some of my things I've made. I've painted, I've needle pointed, I've crocheted, I've drawn things, I've rearranged, I've made things out of things that weren't made for purposes because it was fun. And I will do that again. It's just getting my footing and seeing where I'm going to be. Yes, I'll do it again.
What about you, Miss Rain?
Yes. I would obey the Father again. He did not give me options. He said, this is where you're going, and there's a reason I'm sending you there. Now, in hindsight, I kind of wish that I could look at other places that I'd like to see, because America is not an option. It's an option, but it would put me back in a place that I don't want to be, which is disobedience. So would I explore other parts of this world and take some time to live there? Yes. Yeah, I would do that. But yeah, I guess that's my answer.
Yes, because it is an opportunity, and we'll be able to have that opportunity to go and visit other places. You know, so that way you'll be able to find out, okay, this could be your base, and you could visit, you know, different parts of Africa. You know, it's 54 continents. This one, you know, you get tired of looking at Mauritius. Hey, Cape Verde is waiting. I'm just saying, you got Rodriguez Island, which is another little island close to here. You got a Madagascar. You got Reunion. I know I'm saying it all wrong because these are French islands, so they said a different way, but I'm saying it the Cassie way. Reunion. I think it's La Reunion or something, but those are different places. So I know, Lorraine, you talked about your son. You have a teenage son. Let's talk and touch on that a little bit with people with children. How has he been doing? How have you been doing, you know, as far as school? Let's just talk about, put it all out there, dealing with children, because I think that right here is the biggest point, because I have a listener, Anessa, and some other people who have children that are thinking about coming. And Claudia, she has her children, and they're on Facebook. So you might not see them, but they are on Facebook. And they are, you know, wanting to come also here.
Yes.
So they have children. So I'm gonna give you the floor, and you can discuss your son, how he's doing, what you would do different, you know, and how, you know, how things are right now with your son.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I was waving too. We've got mosquitoes. That's one of the fun things about Mauritius. It's mosquitoes. I came here with my youngest son. He is a freshman in high school. And so that also dictates how this is done too. I would have completely, so if my children were younger, the whole thing would look completely different. And you would handle it different. But he didn't even investigate Mauritius. He didn't want to look at it until he got here. I was like, well, at least look at some pictures. He didn't investigate anything about this. He just wanted to come here. I had to warm him up. I had to plant seeds for months in advance. But because I have 5 children and 4 of them are adults and they're in the States. So he's the only one that came with me. My 19-year-old was planning on coming, but changed her mind and decided to stay. She is still 50-50 about still coming. But you know, one of the things that's attractive is that when you come here with your younger children who are under, I believe it's 24, I believe it's 24. They can be your dependent, so they don't have to fill out an individual visa. So that is a perk. And so that's been something that's nice. But because we've been a homeschooling family, I knew that transition would be easy for us. He was in a charter school for just a few months, just simply because I was so busy and really planning to get us here. And I had to undo all of the institutional stuff. So I had the mindset with my son that I was coming here to reinvent the wheel, because we had gotten so far from way back when I even started homeschooling, and my intent to homeschool and why I was homeschooling, and to give my children a good foundation so that they could go off into the world and start their own families. And we had gotten so far from that. And my son was, to me, becoming somebody that, now he's not a bad kid. He doesn't, you know, smoke, cuss, chew, and hang with people who do, kind of thing. But I could see his demeanor changing. I could see the focus changing. I could see that he was being exposed to things that I had absolutely no intent of continuing. And if we were going to continue to stay in the States, that is how it was going to go. And so I had the mindset that, hey, you know, this is going to be an adventure. We are going to, I have to go. I have to obey the Father. So I kind of, you know, I wasn't trying to be callous, but I also was kind of like, he's just going to have to be mad because I have to do what I have to do. And I told him, I said, we can't stay here. We cannot stay in this country. It isn't safe anymore. And so because my children, I've raised them in a way to understand very deep matters in the truth. My children can recognize a lot of things that, you know, how do I word it? So my son can look in public and show you all kinds of Freemason symbolism, all kinds of satanic symbolism, things like that. So my children were raised that way. So I can have conversations with them that might scare other children, or they might not get what you're talking about. It might be in over their head. So my son knew when I meant business and why I meant business. And I was at a place, just to, you know, not to take up too much time, but I was in a place with my son that at the school, they had told the children, they had buses. If there was ever some type of emergency or shooters or something, you know, somebody coming into the school and all these wild things going on in our country, that the children would go across the field and get on these buses and bring them to safety. I told my son, absolutely not. I said, if something, because I knew and I had heard about some things with that. And I said, if they take you on that bus, I will never see you again. I said, so here's what you're going to do. I said, you're going to act like you are going on a bus and you're not going to get on it. And I started looking at different places. So my son's school was on a retired farm. So it had railroad tracks and all these different places. And I told him, you can go over here, you can go over here, you can go over here, and you just wait for me. I don't care how dark it gets. I don't care what the situation is. I will find you, but do not get on that bus. I don't care. And so the fact that we're even talking to our children at that level, that I think we call that a red flag. We call that a clue. So those are the types of conversations we were having, and I knew that that was not going to happen here. So I prepared my son for this journey, and we didn't. I didn't come here with all my T's crossed and my I's dotted. We just had a foundation, and that was the Father, and he went with it. It was hard for him. It is still, he's gotten much better. He's starting to actually kind of like it here, and he's seeing the rest here. I think the pressure of the States, and you know, he's going to be 15 next month, so he can communicate to me, but he's still young. And he's not able to communicate fully what he's feeling, but I think he's seeing his environment is rusted. It's not all over the place like it was before. And we didn't live in chaos. It was just exhaustion. We were constantly exhausted. So now we replace our days with, you know, we walked to the beach together yesterday, and we're back to schooling, you know, back to homeschooling. So we get that done when we get it done, and we have the rest of the day free, just like back home. But here it's different because the air is different. The neighborhoods are quiet. We don't have appointments to go to. He's now beginning to make some friends. We've been introduced to some other groups. And so I've asked him to come on and talk, you know, with my particular ministry, but he's not ready to do that. So hopefully he'll get to a place where he's ready. But that is, you know, that's kind of that question in and of itself is very loaded, because there's layers to that too. You know, I did struggle with him with attitude, you know, on the plane and in the airport. I was ready to leave, but he wasn't ready to leave necessarily. So depending on their age, you're going to see that come out a little sideways. So with him, I kind of just gave him grace and just a little mercy, and just let him kind of eat what he wanted to eat, because we do eat a certain way, and let him just kind of, you know, just be. And now we're going on month 2, and we're just now starting to get a little bit more structure. We're just now starting to limit our technology time. I was just letting him just have all kind of technology time. And and that's just not typically what we do. But with this type of a move, I knew it was, even though it was a good move, I knew it was going to be a shock. I knew it was going to be a little bit of trauma. And I wanted to try to buffer that as best as I could.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, and I'll read one of them I'll read them, and then whoever feels led to answer can. One forecast says, and welcome forecast, Anissa and Claudia. Thank you for joining, you guys. What are some ways that you guys perspectives changed living here? Either one, whoever wants to answer. That was question number one. And then question number two, and did you already ask the hardest part about moving there, or just moved out of the country? So those are two, and I think you can see those in the chat there. Those are two questions. And the first question was there, what are some ways that you guys perspectives changed living there? So either one, whoever wants to answer, feel free. Please.
Okay. My perspective has changed. I'm not critical about things that I encounter, which I wasn't too much at home, but yes, I was too, because I felt like I always had to be challenged to look out for what might happen, or that if there's some danger. I think the thing that I thought most dangerous here was riding the public bus. That's a fast ride, ladies, gentlemen. That's a fast ride. But it gets you where you got to go. And I haven't seen anybody hurt yet. So I'm still good.
I swear that's the fastest ride ever.
Yes. But I came here with an open mind that I would be ready to embrace, work around, work with, or work through whatever I had to encounter. Certainly I miss home, and I miss people that I know. I have friends who I've known for 30, 40 years. I have a son I left behind who is not in the same mindset as I. He doesn't see what I see. And I would love to be wrong about all that I think I see. But it was enough, like I said, to get me out of my comfort zone and bring me here. What is your second question? Because I go on.
The second question is, he said, and did you already ask the hardest part about moving there, or just moved out of the country?
Well, I can't say I asked the hardest part. I think I did some research about here, but I had other places in my, at first I was going to go to Panama. And then somebody wanted to overthrow Panama. So that wasn't a place for me. Then I was going to go a couple of other places, and I was like, okay, they don't really have any English that they speak there so much. So how's that going to work? And you don't really know anybody. The expats aren't answering their own website. So I had built a community here, a small one, before I even knew it. And the funny thing about it, one lady that got here before me, and I spoke to her a couple of times. So I was out one day at the bus stop because I'm coming from the store. And I hear somebody come behind and ask, about where the bus was going to someone else. And I turned around. I said, "Are you such and such?" It was the same person I had been speaking to on the phone and online in the States months and months and months ago. And I ran into her here. So I'm just saying that life feels easier, even though it's challenging, because anytime you have to rebuild something, it's going to be a challenge. But I just did my research to help me be prepared, to know what I could have, know what I couldn't have, bring what I want, to help me guide as a guideline on what I was going to bring and what I didn't. So, yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. Lorraine, you want to give answer to that? First question was, what are some ways that you all's perspective changed living there? Nubian, I see you backstage. It says device is not connected. So if you can probably go out and come back in. I'm on Facebook also, but I think this might be the better option. So if you want to go out and come back in, then I'll connect you. And thank you for coming. So
Yeah.
he said, what are some of the ways that you guys' perspectives change living there?
Well, so I have had some perspective changes. Some of them I kind of knew just simply because I knew I was coming to a third world country. And, you know, we Americans we're just so convenience. We have everything at our disposal and lots of it. The bigger, the better, the everything. And here it's quite opposite. You know, their stores close at 7 p.m. in the evening and on the weekends at 2 p.m. Some stores aren't even open on Sundays. And this is not this isn't an island that people are up at all hours of the day. I mean, there's probably some, but in overall, people are quiet and at home and their families and whatnot. So the nights are quiet. So those perspectives, I've gotten to see those perspectives. One of the biggest things too is perspectives about myself. I've been really exposing the realization of the trauma that I endured in the States on many levels. We don't even recognize that we are really, like you have put it before, Cassie, in an abusive relationship with our country. And I'm seeing it come out in the quiet moments. I'm a quiet person anyway by nature. And so I do a lot of self-reflecting and processing and take my time and like to be home and quiet. So it gives me a lot of time to figure out what is actually going on here, but realizing that I have to continue the healing process and that the Father is giving me the opportunity to heal. This is a quiet place to do that. It's hard because there are things here too. There are challenges. This is still not America, and we kind of do what we want to do and say what we want to say. And here, the culture is different, as where it's very patriarch here. And so I have experienced a little bit of that with some of the men here, which kind of shut me down real quick because back home we don't do that. we don't the spice will come out real quick. And so that happened like the first 2 weeks I got here, and I was pretty sure I was going back home. I was like, oh, absolutely not. I will not be doing this. No. And so but that honestly has been the worst thing that's happened. It's very difficult to have people constantly speaking for you. I've lost a lot of independence here. I've had to rely on a lot of people, but I also think that that's the Father's intention for what he's got planned for his. And so it's really pulling back those layers of independence that we of Americans were sold that we are supposed to be like. We're supposed to be independent and do our own thing and pay our own bills, have our own little world and be okay. And everybody just be so self-sufficient. And it's backfired on us as a country and caused trauma, quite frankly. And so I'm noticing here the layers of that, because here, you know, I've been like, when we've gone into Port Louis, I've seen how very third world it is, and in parts here too, where I'm in Point Pomone. And they're not complaining. They're just doing what they have to do. They're getting on the bus, that crazy bus. And we are still, even though we are here and living very simply, and it's very cost effective to live here, I've been able to rest. This rest, I didn't know I needed this much rest. I knew I was exhausted. And let me say this too, without over talking, everything that I've been going through, good or bad here, I prayed for. I just didn't know it was going to look like this. I asked for the Father to relieve me. I asked him to take away the stress. I asked him to do this and to do that. And he has answered me, but it just hasn't looked the way I thought it was going to look. And I've needed the rest. I feel like maybe all of us have, quite frankly, needed the rest and the mind break. But to Spring's point, I don't know about the postal system. Do I have an address? If I order something from Amazon, is it going to get to me? I'm not sure. I'm quite not sure yet. There's a huge stray dog problem here. So that's been a little traumatic. But I don't know if I answered both of their questions. But I do feel kind of like I walked out of the wilderness kind of into a different wilderness in some ways. But the other thing I think, and let me leave it at this and I'll digress, is that it is a little off-putting because we're Americans. They think we're just loaded with money, and we do get taken advantage of. And that is a constant thing every single day. If we walk out this door, we have to be prepared for that. I don't know that it's as bad as some other parts of Africa. I think that Mauritius is pretty, to my understanding, listening to others, probably pretty low with that, but it's still a thing here. And so for me, and I probably can speak for Cassie and Spring as well, that we've been a little fortunate to have some Mauritians on our side to speak for us in certain situations. So that's been such a blessing. And I cannot stress that more. You have to have a Mauritian that is trustworthy to help you navigate at least a little bit.
Okay, I think you've answered the question. Nubian, welcome. I'm so glad that you could come. I'm so glad you could make it. We've asked a few questions as far as we talked about kids. And I know you have children. I want you to introduce yourself, introduce your ministry, and then we're going to ask you a little bit about your daughter, because I think you have a daughter also, a teenager, right? So yes. I'm going to give you the floor. You introduce yourself. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you the floor now.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. Hello, everyone. Hi, Cassie, Spring. Hi, Lorraine. How are you? Beautiful. Everyone's so beautiful. So good to see your faces. So let me just absorb that first, because we always talk on the phone. So it's good to put a face to the voice. So, and that's what's so beautiful about actually meeting other expats, because you usually hear their voice, but you don't really see their face, or maybe a still frame picture. But yeah, so my name is Nubian. My ministry is Little Promises. We also have Exodus, which is an expat relocation service. And then we also have New Meals, which is plant-based eating, as well as life coaching, where we help transition into expats, not just expats in Africa, but expats from the four corners of the earth. So I'm in Africa right now. I'm in Kenya. I'm an American from America, born and raised. It was always my childhood dream to be in Africa, to come to Africa. They would show us the pictures growing up with the African children with the big bellies and the flies flying around their faces. And now we know that there's a whole nother side of Africa they never showed us. So coming here has always been my childhood dream. We do missionary work as well. So I do street preaching. I go out, do missionary work. I'm also a gospel recording artist. So going out to do missionary work, it's very interesting because they speak Swahili here as well as English. So a lot of times when I go do street ministry, it's Swahili, but there's always someone next to that person that speaks English. So I still preach the gospel in English. We go into the orphanages, we go into the shelters, we go to the slums, we go to the places that the regular churches don't really step into. And that's not just here in Africa, that's all over the world. My family and I, we travel. So yes, I do have a teenage daughter, and she is absolutely devastated, just to keep it real. She does not like Africa at all. She does not like the African culture at all. I've had a lot of backlash as a mom, trying to stand on my post, to stand in my ministry, as well as, family that basically uprooted their life to come with me to help me and my ministry. But Right now, it's not all peaches and cream at the end of the day. I've had to uproot myself to step into my ministry, but my daughter, she just turned 16, but she doesn't like it at all. So when I say my family doesn't like it, they're in a space to where I have to homeschool my daughter. I've always homeschooled my daughter, so that's nothing new. It's just a matter of now she's at that age to where she wants to go back into, the public full system and go back into America's public full system. So basically I'm on a different wavelength than my family. So that comes with arguments, that comes with disagreements, that comes with attitudes, unless you're feeding everybody. You can always get what you need done if you're talking it over with a meal. I'm just going to keep it as real as I possibly can. I really feel like there's a lot of, like Lorraine was saying, I caught the part where she was saying that, a lot of people feel as just because we're American, we're walking dollar tags or dollar signs. So that comes with a pro and a con to it. The pro is that I feel that there are things about our frequency that we have to recognize as people, as the children of the living God, as stepping into a time where God's going to use us to be a part of a major transformation of wealth. Now, this major transformation of wealth has everything to do with our birthright that was promised to us from our forefathers as God takes us into the land that he has promised to give us. Today is the Feast of Weeks, started today. So let me just acknowledge that first and foremost, which is Shabbat, which is the Feast of Pentecost. That's when Moses came off of the mountain to read the 10 Commandments. So a lot of God's children are returning back to their creator, who we know God to be. We're waking up. So in the midst of us waking up, a lot of people all over the globe, they already know who we are, even if it's just by frequency. So we get a lot of backlash from that, hate or jealousy, or just, who these people think they are, or you just have money. I know you have money. We're like, where is this money? So I feel that it's a time that we stand on that, knowing that we do come from a royal priesthood, and it's a frequency that many get that we're just waking up to. So yes, we are getting charged extra. They call it Mazugu prices here, which means white man prices, which means just because you're telling them that you don't have it. For example, if something costs, let's say 20 shillings, which is 14 US dollars. If it's 20 shillings, if they look at you and they see that you're American, or even they hear your accent, because you can even be on the phone, they're automatically going to charge you 40 shillings or 60 shillings. You're going to get double or triple the price. So the best route to take is to have a fellow Kenyan speak for you or go in to negotiate for you, because when you go out into the markets, you don't see many people who are from Britain, or even the Chinese. They don't go into the markets to negotiate themselves. If they do, a lot of them already know how to speak Swahili, or they were born here. So it's basically learning the ropes, and then also being highly cautious of who you have negotiating for you, because a lot of times you're thinking that that's a friend of yours or an assistant or someone that you hired on to assist you. And then you'll find out later that they were just warming themselves up to learn about you so they can, take from you or steal from you. Everything here is a negotiation. Even to get to the store, you want someone to take you or even show you the direction of the store. They want something. They want to eat. They want you to give them something. It's way different than the States. In America, is down the street, just make a left, make a right, there you go. But here, they'll give you the directions, but then they see that you're not African, and that comes with a price. So when it comes to my daughter and being a mom of, a child who just does not want to be in Africa, that comes with a lot of wisdom and discernment, especially during these times, because you also have to parent as well as deal with your own stress levels, as well as deal with your child's stress levels. And you have to put yourself in their shoes, because we're living in different times. the times that we grew up in, we were fine going out on the streets, riding our bikes, being kids. But now, uh, raising a child who is an American child and all she knows is America, and now she's in a foreign country and she's afraid to walk down the street because when you're in Kenya, I don't know how it is in other African countries, but they stare at you. You are stared at from the time you step out the car. If you see homeless people on the street or even homeless children, they will rush you or ask you for money. At first, I was giving money, but then I realized you have to be careful even giving money because a lot of the children are on drugs. A lot of the children have handlers, which means they're placed on the streets to ask for money. And once you give them money, they're going to tell their fellow friend or brother. And then next, you have a swarm of kids running towards your car. And that can also put you in danger, especially if you say no, especially if it's nighttime. What I've noticed as well is a lot of expats don't go out at night. There's not even women, even if there's African women, they're not out at night. So there are certain times that you operate in the marketplace. There are certain times that you operate on the streets at night. It's a completely different world at night than it is during the day. So I hope that covers some of the basics. Also, like I said, it's always been a childhood dream of mine to come to Africa to help, feed the poor, feed the homeless. But after recent experiences with coming to feed the poor, feed the homeless, you deal with you get robbed a lot. When I mean robbed, I mean the people that are under you who you're feeling sorry from, you have to deal with being stolen from, people that you least expect being stolen from. You also have to deal with witchcraft. Witchcraft is very heavy in Africa. It's heavy in America as well. But in America, I guess they call it white magic. And there are certain groups of people that you deal with witchcraft from. So you know which people stay away stay away from, or you may not know. But in Africa, everyone knows witchcraft. And you just don't know at any given time who is projecting witchcraft towards you or throwing witchcraft at you, just simply because you could be walking in the market, and if someone looks at you and they don't like how you looked at them, next thing you know, they can blow something on you, and you're dealing with a whole nother beast system, which is rarely talked about. That's why I want to bring that up as well, because a lot of people move to Africa looking for a complete comfort zone and then find themselves in a whole world of hit and misses and losses and stress and downfalls. And you're wondering, where's all these attacks coming from? And you don't realize now you're dealing with a coven of witches. Because one thing that I've realized with Africans is that they all work together in community, and they all will join each other to work together in community until one of their fellow Africans begin to be successful or make it to the top. Then they'll use witchcraft on them or attacks against their very own to bring them down. It's not the same for Mazugus, which we refer to as white people or China people or Indians. It's more towards their very own. If you're Black American, even experiences in the banks, if you go into the banks, it doesn't matter how much income you show, even if you show double or triple the amount of what they're asking. If they don't like you, they will block you from car loans. They'll block you from home loans. They'll block you from land loans. They'll block you just because they feel like blocking you. They'll find a reason to block you. So it's a matter of adjustments here and how you want to adjust. I just know that so much is happening all over the world, but I also know that God is leading his people back to and through Africa. So because God brought us here, that means that we can't just uproot and just leave a place that we're supposed to be originally from. And then when we get here, we're not welcomed here because of whatever television has programmed society to feel or project or to believe about Black Americans or even just Americans in general. So there are specific areas that expats go to and stay in and remain in. And we actually have 3 different locations in Africa. We have a place that's near the equator called Nanyuki. We also have another place that is in Nairobi. And then we also have another place that is in another place about 4.5 hours from there, which I choose not to disclose the name. So they're all spread out like pyramids. So these different places that are spread out, the place that I choose not to disclose the name, let's just call it Wonderland. In Wonderland, that area, we're living specifically only around Africans. There's no expats. There's no expats that even go out in that area. The other place that's around the equator, we have set up to where there's expat housing for not just ourselves, but expats that want to relocate from different countries. So because Africa is different than America, they don't fix anything. If you have roaches and rodents, you fix it yourself. You call the exterminator yourself. If something's broken, you fix it yourself. There's no such thing as them fixing anything. You always have to make sure that you get the service first and then pay after. If you get the service first and you pay first, you're not going to get any type of refund. There's no system. There's no such thing as refunds here. So you have to be prepared to take more of a loss if you're not cautious about your steps, which is unfortunate because as an American, we're not used to that. We're used to being fair, even if it's just righteous or just being an honorable human being. Now, it's interesting because Africa is supposed to be a place that is a God-fearing place. However, I find it very, very hard to find Bibles in any stores at all in Africa. It's interesting because so many people get excited to move to Africa. They get excited to come here. So much is happening in America that everyone wants to flee. And if you search the social media pages, everyone's talking about, the grand life of these places if you just expatriate here. But what they don't talk about is the downside and the scary side of the setups. We have had to deal with renting from rental car companies that end up renting us someone else's car. And then next thing you know, you have a whole gang coming after you to threaten you, saying you stole their car and they want triple and 3 times and 4 times more the amount. And they're surrounding you by gangs and now you got to pay them. So we've had to deal with the dark side all the way to, I will say the light side when it comes to even the light side of it. What I've noticed is that there's expat areas for a reason. There's a reason that the expats live in those areas. But if you step outside of those areas, even if you don't step outside of those areas, the times that we're stepping into, people are comfortable in the expat areas. But once society takes the turn that it's getting ready to take now and that it's taking right now, people who are in the expat areas, no matter what culture, background, or race that you are, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. You're going to be in for a huge shock. So when I say that we are in 3 different locations throughout Africa, we're in those locations because, like I said, we run an expat service. We're also being divinely led to those places, as well as we are learning the culture ourselves. So therefore, we can give insights regarding what to do, what not to do, where to go, where not to go. And because we feel that we're frontliners, it's not comfortable, it's not fun. You're also dealing with challenges. If you're married, you'll be dealing with challenges, whether your spouse wants to stay, in Africa with you, or if they just want to just end the marriage and just completely return back to a life that they once remembered that's really not there, but they remember it that way. So you have to be strong, whether you're a male or a female, you have to be strong. If moving abroad, especially to Africa, is something that you have decided in your heart that you're going to do, I recommend that you look at the downside of things. Look for the worst before you look for the best. So therefore you can prepare yourself, because if you just go straight in diving, you don't know if you're diving into a lake of fire that looks like water. And by the time you're burnt and you're scorched, you're traumatized. And now you're like, I want to go back to America, or go back to whatever land you're from, because we don't just deal with America. We're also dealing with islanders, Jamaica, Barbados, the Caribbean, different islands where people are transitioning, Ireland, Seoul, Korea, where people are transitioning from these places, from America, or from America to here, or those places to here. So it's a lot to deal with. Just be ready for stress. through our expat program, people who come into our Exodus expat program, we have set up for them housing set up to where it's a transitional phase. You transition from just renting out a apartment from us or a room from us, and then you go to look for your own space in your own place from there. We have places set up that are next to malls where you don't have to worry about a rent-a-car. You can just walk across the street to the mall and deal with all of your, they have dentist office, the drive-in movie, not the drive-in, the movie theaters, grocery stores, banks, so things like that. Then we have places that are just rural areas that have nothing there whatsoever, but every location except the third place I was talking about has a space or a place that you can go within walking distance to the local store. Now, there's a lot of riots that are happening a lot lately, and they're not just happening here in Kenya, but they're happening spread out throughout Africa. What I do know is that these riots are going to spread out more. So this is why we have chosen to move in certain spaces that are more rural, but we also make sure that, you know, we have specific security. Our security is our dogs. We have German Shepherds that is giving birth to more German Shepherds because you're not allowed to carry guns or weapons. But we noticed that they do sell big batons on the streets or big machetes on the streets. So when they riot, that's how they protect themselves. So it's a lot to prepare yourselves for when it comes to banking. You have to also prepare yourself for the way that you're going to bank. Also get everything in writing. Be very specific. If someone tells you, yes, you can come here, or you can do this or do that, get everything in writing. Always make sure, even if you talk to someone on the phone, make sure what they said is in writing, because when you get to that location, you're going to find that they will find a way. People will find a way to manipulate your words, to find a way to solicit you for money. We have been, I'm on a missionary visa. So it took me about a year to get my missionary visa. So through Little Promises, we are with our missionary visa here. However, even trying to take the journey to get that visa, we were, pretty much robbed. People would come in to act as if they were helping us and charging us all these extra fees, anywhere from $300 to $1,100 US every 3 months, only to get to the point to where I got tired of being robbed. So I said, let me just go to the immigration and do this myself. When I went to go do everything myself, step by step, myself, and just take a risk, what I realized is that I never had to pay not one dime. It was just a matter of reading the curriculum, reading the material. You're paying people for comfort. You're paying people to do it for you. You're paying people to extort you, and you don't have to. As an American citizen in Kenya, even when you have a 5-year visa, if you're an American citizen, you go into the embassy and it's free for them to upgrade the stamp. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. But I wouldn't have known this if I didn't go through the experience that I went through to be able to help other expats who are trying to come here. So there's a whole lot more to this story, and this would take years to go through all this, but I hope that I get the basics of it.
You did. And I want to ask another question. As far as you guys, I know you have kids. What advice would you give to parents with children moving to Africa? And that's for you guys. And I know, Spring, I have a couple questions for you also, but what advice could you give to parents that's bringing over kids, small ones, teenagers? What is your advice to them?
My advice would be to be honest with them, as honest as you possibly can. If you have a call to come, let them know this is my call. I feel led to come. My best way to describe it in a nutshell is when God called Moses to lead the children of Israel into the promised land, and the children of Israel got to the promised land, they said, Moses, you brought us all out here to die. So you will have that experience from friends and family if you don't be honest with them and just try to be as transparent as you possibly can be. At some point, they will get upset with you because they're uncomfortable now. They're in a foreign land. They want to go home. That's all we know is home as America. But now we're uprooted, and now we're the foreigners. And, people in foreign countries, they remember how they were treated when they came to our land. And now we're having to experience the backlash of it, not just because who's leading our country, but because of what they experienced or their family members experienced when they were also in our land. So one thing is, don't take it personal. Do your best not to take it personal. Do your best to keep as much peace as possible. Always be fair to people, no matter how they do things. And then, I feel like with my daughter, she grew up in a skyriser in Chicago on Wacker Drive. So she's used to luxury. She's used to upscale. She's used to growing up in a skyriser. And then you bring her to Africa, it's like she's walking near African people or the homeless children who are coming up asking her for money, and she's and I'm like, stop doing that. Don't do them like that, So it became a major lesson for her as well, to let her know that, that could be us, or that could be you, or how would you want people to treat you? So it just becomes raw. It just becomes a reality, for everyone involved at this point.
Lorraine.
Yeah, just to tailgate what she was saying, I think I shared a little bit before that I really preempted for months what was happening, and that I was very clear what the father was doing. But it was also not that I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't being callous. I just was, this is what we're going to do. And I think it got said very well yesterday, Nubian and I are both in ministry, so we have a different spin a little bit to some of this. So you are going to have a little bit more warfare and that kind of thing. But like it was said so well yesterday, telling our children, and this is good for my son, is welcome to being a military child. Because when you're called into war and you're a soldier back home, they move from state to state and place to place. And so that's been a little bit of our life. And so it was said very well yesterday, but I would agree with her and be very honest. My son too, our children are American, so they're very used to privilege and very used to getting things right away and having choices and options, and just call Amazon and it's here by the end of the day, or, and so I knew that was going to be a transition. I knew that my son was what we used to say. I know it's not a very popular thing to say anymore, but he was becoming spoiled, not because I was intentionally doing it, but it's because of our culture. So when we came here and saw the differences, I was just waiting for all the comments. I was waiting for the unsolicited snarkiness, and I really didn't get a lot of it, surprisingly. I think he understands that, this isn't home. This isn't, we can't just go down the street and just get whatever we want. We can't just go to Trader Joe's. But he hasn't really warmed up to the bus system. That is still, his attitude is still that's a little bit beneath him. But it's only because I think it's so unorganized. Like back home, when the bus is coming, it's a schedule, it's right on time. You know what you're here. It's just kind of, they come if they want to kind of thing. And so I think for him it feels, and then the bus looks like it's in the 1950s, 60s, something like that. So our children are not used to that. I couldn't prepare him for that. There's some things you just can't prepare them for. You can prepare them the best that you know how. Like I couldn't prepare him for all the mosquitoes, or having to walk everywhere, or having to rely on so many people, and we just don't do that in the States. But I think overall, I have to give him a little bit of credit. He's adjusting well, but it doesn't mean, like Nubian was saying, yeah, I've had to face a lot of attitude. I have. I sent some pictures actually to my family of him doing push-ups by the pool, because that's what we get when we're a little bit spicy with mom. So, we've had a lot of days like that, a lot of sassiness, but some of it is because he is a teenager, not just because we're in another country. So having that discernment, and really, I cannot stress this more, please give your children grace, because this is adjustment for them too, and mercy, no matter what age they are. If I had littles, honestly, it was actually for me, and let me just speak for me, it would actually be easier. Because they're so, they're like childlike. Oh, let's go to the beach. Let's do all these things. And they just are going with the flow. I do remember asking Tiffy and Harold about that with their oldest, because he is the same as my son. And they said, well, he's kind of been used to this. So it wasn't really an adjustment because this has been his life. So, yeah, so that's kind of my answer. Hopefully
Okay.
that was helpful.
That was good. That was good. Now, Spring, you've been a little quiet. So I'm going to ask you and all three of you guys about the emotional part of it. How has that been for each of you? Spring, you first.
Emotionally, I sort of tried to prepare myself that I need to be more accepting of what I was going to encounter. Be able to take it lightheartedly. Yes, I miss friends and family. I have an adult child that actually came back into the city to where I lived during the pandemic. And before then, we hadn't lived with each other for 15 years. We hadn't lived in the same cities for 15 years. So I got to learn him as an adult, and he got to learn me as an adult. And we both kind of had the rule that we would not try to hold each other back from wherever the other person wanted to go. I know definitely that he didn't anticipate this move 9,500 miles away. And he's like, I know he wants to say she's a little crazy, a little out there. But I talk to him often. I'm at peace with what I've done. And like I said, moving in with someone else, it was a soft landing. It's not what I think would be the true feelings of someone who moved by themselves and lived by themselves and adjusted by themselves. And I didn't have that experience, but if I had, I'm pretty sure my feelings would be a little bit stronger and maybe even a little bit all over the place. Or maybe I would have gotten out and been more adventurous. I don't know. I just kind of made myself at home when I got here. And I'm good with that. I still have concerns about those folks that I left behind. And of course, I had my favorite things, but they're just things. I'm more concerned about the people. I would love to be proven wrong, or that this will all turn out that, oh, this was all for nothing. You being over, but I'm not. I know what I see, and I know it was time to go, and I'm good with the plan that I've made, and the fact that I'm being watched over, looked over, cared for. I get up every morning. I haven't gone without meals. I'm not miserable. Two things I've learned here, because this is my first time without a car in 52 years. And I had 52 years. So I've learned how to walk and I've learned how to sweat. So, and that's pretty funny, but it's been a healthy sweat. I feel pretty good. I do. Some of the things that I thought were health concerns, I'm finding out that they were more toxins than health concerns. Yeah, so I'm good with my decision. Emotionally, I'm stable. I'm happy. Um, and it's like an adventure, and that's the way I'm going to treat it. No matter what goes on, life is an adventure. I'm going to treat it that way because I'm not held down by the constraints and that busy and that push and that race that we had to live in the States. I mean, I was retired, but I was still in a rat race. Yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. Who's next? Same question. Emotionally, how are you handling it? Where are you emotionally with all of this?
Should we crash out now or later? No. So when I first came here, I was excited, like I said. But now I feel like I went through this phase of a culture shock that wiped the smile off of my face. And everywhere I went, I was smiling at like all the Africans because I noticed that they have a resting bee face. And when you look at them, they're looking very angry. But then when you smile, then they smile too, and they have the most beautiful smile. So don't underestimate people just because they're not smiling. You know, I think I walk around that like that too, not smiling. But then being here and having my experiences that I had, I don't think I would change it at all, especially to go back to what's in America. I know the decision that I made, you know, just like Spring said, we know what's coming to America. We know what's getting ready to happen there. I feel we're the lucky ones because we got a chance to come here to adjust and adapt and to have these experiences before people are either trapped in America or they don't get a chance to vibe it out first before everything happens. So one thing that I do want to point out about Africa too is you have to really think about it. We're used to being very privileged and giving everything at any given time. Africans are used to adjusting and making a way out of nothing. And you have to respect it. You have to respect the game. We've been handed so much growing up. One day, I remember my husband and my daughter and I, we were sitting at the driveway at the parking garage at the mall, and they wouldn't let us out because something happened with the ticket thing. So we're like, get the manager. No, we'll sit here. We'll wait for the manager. So we noticed we were just sitting there for a while. We're like, I don't think no manager's coming. I think they're in there laughing at us. And that's exactly what was going on. You don't get to call for no manager. We were complaining when we first got here. And now if something good happens, we're excited about that. We'll get, if something nice happens, we'll take that, you know? But the experience overall, no, I wouldn't change it for the world. Yeah, there's pros and cons. Bad things happen, but bad things happen everywhere. As far as being here in Africa, it's a huge culture shock. It's so huge. It will blow your mind. It will have you just angry at Africa and wondering, what am I here for? What am I doing this for? But we've been called here. We've been brought here by the living God, and I'm going to stand on that. So if it takes what it takes to break us down and to humble ourselves, one thing I'd noticed that we're mostly complaining about are things, material things, giving away your luxury, nice privileges or your things. Just, you know, find a way to adapt. And when you find a way to adapt, find other expats like what we have here and, you know, make a friend that you can really trust, someone that you can really, you know, cry to and say, hey, I need someone to talk to right now. And if someone comes to you like that, allow them to be themselves, allow them to be open with you, because we may seem like we're strong, but we're human. So allow us to vent, allow us to be there for each other without judgment, without, who they think they are. And, just without judgment, because we're really kids at heart too. This is hard for us because we had a chance to grow up in America, to experience America. And I just feel like right now we need each other now more than ever. So if we can find a group, find a team to really be there, be authentic, be real, then that's more than anything in the world. We can not just be in Africa, we can be in Timbuktu, we could be in Antarctica. But if we have each other and we respect each other's feelings, we respect each other's grind, we respect each other's background, or no matter what, then we can go far. We can go far.
Very well said. Yeah, very well said. Because she started off with, should we crash out? Because I'm going to say this honestly, there's been days where I've wanted to crash out, as these young people say. The first week I got here, I think I might have slipped into a little tiny depression. I'm not sure. I'm not a depressive person. I'm usually pretty bubbly. And I just wasn't. I closed the shades one day. I closed everything, turned off all the lights, and I just sat and I watched the extended version of Lord of the Rings. I'm not kidding. That thing is 9 hours long, and I got all my snacks that I had, and I didn't have anything to give. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know. And since that day, it hasn't been that bad that day, but it's gone in waves. There's days where I feel really blue, and down. And, I really, really use those moments to press into the Father, because you know how he is. He puts us into the battlefield so that he can make stronger soldiers. And I understand what's going on. In my good mind, I understand how he works and all those things. But in my flesh and in my humanness, I'm like, yeah, but I'm really sad, Father. I'm sad today. And I need to walk those feelings out and not deny that sadness. Because if I push it down, I know myself, I'm going to start getting sick. And at least acknowledging that I'm sad today. And no, I don't want to talk about it. I'm just sad. And I need to just do that and just be quiet and just walk it out. Go to the beach, walk it out. I read up some articles about what to do if you're having culture shock, and do some things that are familiar, kind of like I watched The Lord of the Rings, but I'm a huge music lover. And I have found for me, though, that has not been helpful because it reminds me of home. And so for me personally, that hasn't been such a good therapeutic approach. Just really showing myself a lot of mercy and grace, because there have been days when to be honest, I have felt rage. I have, like Nubian was saying, finding that you're angry with your environment and being frustrated because, it is a different culture, but at the same time, right now, selfishness is at an all-time high. And even from people who call themselves believers. So, and there are days where I've been around other believers and my mouth is just wide open. Like, did they really just say that? Or are they really just doing that? And what? And you can't believe what you just heard. And, I like Nubian was saying, I had this great expectation when I came here, and it quickly went, and yet at the same time, I stood on what the Father said, and that has been my safety net. He's been my safety net. And I don't say that in a cliche way. I have stood on the fact of, what did your Father tell you to do? Whether I feel good, whether I feel bad, whether I feel like crashing out, whether I feel rage, whether I'm being talked about, whether there's jealousy, whatever is going on, whether there's, warfare, what did I tell you? What did I tell you I was going to do? I told you I would provide. I told you I would never leave you or forsake you. And I told you to leave that land. So here we are. But it's gone in waves. Just to be transparent, it really has. And I'm human. And so there's days where I get sad and I close the windows and I'm like, I'm in that place. So what do I need to do to help me? I need to pray. I need to make sure I'm eating well. I'm actually eating better than I ever have in quite some time, because I told you about the fresh fruit in the yard, and being able to get fresh meat from the butchers. Meat is very, very affordable here if you're a meat eater, if you're not fully vegan, and fresh eggs that have not been messed with. That's just absolutely amazing. I love that. And so it's gotten me to slow down and process what it is I really do need. What do I need right now? Maybe I just need to go take a nap. Maybe I do need a walk. And the Lord comes in with his comfort, and he does come in and brings comfort. He does. And he brings other people to talk with, maybe over the phone, if that's what you're needing at that time. So that's my answer to that emotionally. It's in waves for me personally. And I did leave my family. I do worry about them, about what they're choosing to stay. I have a son with special needs who's in a men's group home who I can't get here right now. And he would come in a heartbeat because he's adventurous and he would think this was great and would have absolutely no idea of all the things going on around him. He just knows he's by the beach. And so I am working on that. I'm praying on that. I do want to get him out. But yes, to Spring's point, we worry about our people back home. Yeah.
Okay, I got one more question, and then we're gonna do the closing remarks. What could you have done different? Help people. What could they do to get ready for this transition to make it just a little bit easier for them? What could they do? Or what did you do to make it so you could either make it personal or just say, hey, this is what I did, and they could take it from there. And whoever wants to start.
I think I've heard people say, just bring your clothes, just use 2 suitcases. I say bring the things that you love and need and that you aren't going to be able to replace. Because even if you get it here and you give it away, at least you have it with you and you don't have to think about it. Eventually, a lot of those things will pass, but bring the things that you want, bring the things that you need, and I'm forever, for goodness sake, bring shoes. Bring shoes. I've made a joke that Mauritian people have feet of steel because I'm the flip-flops, standing on a metal ladder. I've seen it all, okay? My feet hurt. I don't know about them. Okay. And I'm not even wearing flip-flops out there. So bring your shoes, bring the things that make your life healthier. One of the things that I learned, even though food is healthier, um, is some of it. You're gonna learn to read labels in French. I used to use the Yuka app at home. I can't use it anymore, but I've learned what things are. I remember we were looking for baking soda in the store one time. Oh, they don't have baking soda here. I'm like, okay, yes, they do. Everybody got baking soda. It's bicarbonate soda, a bicarbonate of soda. Okay, you have to think of what the other name is for the thing that you want, that, and it's here. Or think of another name. We've been eating this lovely seaweed salad from the sushi place. Well, it's got a whole new name. Because I said I can't find it in the stores, but yeah, it's in another section of Mauritius. So like I said, that's my mystery. I find things. But just bring what you love, bring what you need. Make sure that you have some photos in your phone or somewhere of family members. Like, for instance, my family was more aged, even though the majority of them passed. I didn't really have anybody to pass down those family photos to because I'm the only sibling who's left. But I took pictures of photos because I couldn't bring them all. I couldn't bring things. And some things, like I said, I still left. And just be ready for an adjustment that is forgiving, that you can ease into. Be ready to accept the feelings that you've had. And I've had a couple of days, I know I was depressed because I just kind of laid around. I didn't act on it. I didn't feel like crying. I didn't want to go home right then. Because I wasn't going to get those things that I wanted to get and didn't bring. But other than that, just treat this as the adventure it is, the opportunity to have some peace in a place that's not warring, that is peaceful. And I even looked at and was talking about, oh, they got all these bars and gates and wires on windows, and their crime rate is 2.4% or something like that. They arrested 50 people last year. Nobody for a violent crime. But they're suited up for war with these bars on the windows. I'm like, man, if I could pluck them things off and get me a screen, I would be in business. But it's things like that. You just learn to make adjustments. My adjustment for our little buggers that come through the windows, because we'd open the windows around here. I've thought of or looked at something new where you take a paper towel, you spread Vicks or something like that on it. You put cloves in it, you put cinnamon in it, you roll it up and you light it, and it keeps them out.
Okay.
So I got another project, y'all. Okay. Yeah, that's my answer plus more. Thanks.
All righty. Who's next?
Well, one of the things that my family and I, that we have done is we walked away from 20 acres of land and 15 years worth of food supply to do ministry work. My husband worked at Volkswagen, so we drove very fancy cars, e-trons, all that, gave all that stuff back. So when I say When we came to Africa, all we brought was just our documents. Just start from scratch. My thing is, if it's Africa and everything comes from Africa, then you can get it in Africa. Whole new place, whole new energy, whole new experience. Just start from scratch. Don't worry about what you're going to pack. Don't worry about what you're going to take, because what's coming to America, someone will be led to your home. They will need the things that you leave there. Maybe leave them a letter or something of encouragement with the Bible verse here and there. But other than that, don't stress yourself about where am I going to put my things in storage? Who's going to hold my stuff? What's going to happen to my house? The one thing that I do recommend is your gift making room for you. Now, what I mean by that, so when you're an expat in another country, usually you're on a tourist visa or a visitor's visa, which means you can't work, which means that your income is solely dependent on either your savings or your retirement. If you have none of that, it's going to be your gift, an invention, maybe consulting, something that you do online that's going to help you make money. Because if you don't have that, then maybe it's time to consider that. Even if you're just teaching people how to sew a blanket, teaching people how to put oil in a car, those are gifts. Those are tools that people can use that can help you monetize either your channel or monetize your pain, because these are the times where your gift will make room for you. Just don't worry about things. Things are weights, they're anchors. You're a ship. Let those things go so you can take off.
All right, Ms. Lorraine.
Yes. So looking back on my own personal situation, I don't know that I could have done anything necessarily different, just because of the time frame that the Father gave me and when he said to do things. So I did the very best I could. I too knew that, I was coming here for not only the second Exodus, but ministerial reasons. And so I sold everything as well, turned my car back in, walked out of everything. And so I really brought just clothes and some comforts as well. Just because I knew it would be an adjustment period, just simple things like, Spring had mentioned the shea butter, that we don't have. So, I've just started putting castor oil in my hair and my tallow. I was doing that anyway, but, just knowing you kind of have to adjust. And just like with the stores, I was looking for coconut oil and they had it in the hair care area. I'm like, well, why would it be over here? We use it to cook. It's a little weird like that here. I found castor oil in the bio section is what they call it here. But it was with the cooking products. I'm like, well, what's the castor oil doing next to the olive oil and all that which should be, so I stumbled upon things. I stumbled upon xylitol, which I use back home. And I didn't think I could find that here, but I stumbled upon it. And so I, just taking my time, I've been able to find things that we would have, back home. But something that I would do differently when my mom found out that I was coming here, she was a little in distress. Both my parents were. My dad's Kenyan, so he kind of flipped out because he did not want me going back. He was like, it's not safe. And now I'm going to have to call your aunties. And it was this whole thing. But once he figured out that I was coming to Mauritius, he settled down and realized it wasn't, going to be the experience that he was going to have to be concerned every single day, because they are two different environments. Even though it's still Africa. But one of the things my mom said, and I know everybody's situation is different, but she said to me, well, can you just wait a year and just save up a little more and get a little more money stacked up? But my mom didn't, she's not thinking like I'm thinking and getting the same instruction biblically. And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to stay and save up $50,000. That would be great. But that's not the instructions I was given. And so, honestly, that's the advice I would love to give, is if you can stack up a little bit, try. But, the Father will take care of you. He will. And I'm not saying don't come over here with nothing. I'm just saying that it's not as big of a deal as you might think. You really can make it work. You really can live very cost effectively. You can. And so I think the biggest thing too is also, like Spring was saying, having an open mind, and Nubian mentioned it too, and just having the mindset of being adventurous. And yes, you're going to have some days, but just having an open mind. And that is the one thing I have kept, is an open mind, and being willing to listen and learn from the people here and just watch my environment. I'm an observer by nature anyway. So just really observing people and taking it in, and just allowing the Father to just do what he wants to do.
Okay, let's go to our last words. Anybody have any last words that they want to, speak on, as far as just whatever you can share to make this smooth transition emotionally? What can they do? What can you share with them? That last point that you need to really hit home with, as far as the people are concerned. And whoever wants to start, Spring, want to start? Okay.
I would say, if you feel that you need to leave, if you feel that you're not happy, if you feel that you're not safe, take the leap. Take the leap. I had one friend tell me he never rode in a plane. He was afraid. I said, one thing I learned about riding in planes and doing anything else you want to do, if God wants you, he knows where to come and get you. Okay? You won't hide from that. But try something new. The world is your oyster. Be adventurous. Be open. Be happy.
All right, who's next? Last words, ladies. Nubian?
I would say that there are levels to this. So just keep an open mind. I recommend that you don't mention to, maybe if they're not coming with you and this is what you want to do and you made it up in your mind, just keep it to yourself. Because what I've learned is when you keep it to yourself, it's easier for you to hear God's voice only. But when you mention it to other people, you're going to hear all other type of conversations going on in your head. And it's a lot of doubt out there, a lot of nays. Just don't be afraid. Just be mindful that a lot of people are afraid in the world right now, and that's just real. But this is not something that you need to be afraid about, because what's coming to the world is a major shakeup. But what's coming to America, it's even biblical that America will not even exist anymore. So that goes to show you the shakeup that's going to happen there. And even with the Bible verse, it says, "Come out of Babylon, my people, lest you go down with her wrath." It says, "Flee, run." So when I saw "flee, run," it doesn't say, well, maybe spiritually, all that, but it specifically, if you want a map, follow the blueprints of the Bible, because God's word is the only word that we have to stand on. And that's the only thing that's going to sustain you in the times that you're afraid. You can lean on God. You can trust God. He will walk you through it. He promises to never leave you or forsake you. He will be there for you when everyone else is laughing at you or doubting you because of your moves or decisions that you're making. They laugh at themselves. They doubt themselves, but don't let someone else's conversation be, the reason that you decide not to do something that you feel so strong in your heart to do. So just be prepared for, a shakeup. And it's not just Africa. We went to Jamaica. We came straight from Seoul, Korea to here. And even being in Seoul, Korea, there's a language barrier there, of course. But we use Google Translate, so if you even have to go to Mauritius, use Google Translate. There's a way that you can translate. So just don't be afraid. Just hold your head up and just tell yourself, like I said, use the Bible as a map. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And know that, there's more power in you than you realize. It's just that, when you step out on a limb and you're ready to fly, it's your time. It's your time to believe in yourself. It's your time to take the steps that you need to take for you, because at the end of the day, only you and your walk with God is what's going to count when all is said and done.
What was the question? I was so caught up in what both the ladies were saying.
Just your last words. What could you do, or what advice could you give to someone who's maybe wanting to think about the process? How could you help them to make that decision, or to kind of walk them through it?
Okay. Definitely, both of what Spring and Nubian said, I would tailgate that and emphasize that, and also do as much research and just get yourself as knowledgeable as you can. Check out everything. Look at as many videos as you need to. Do some reading up. Do Google searches. Do Chat GPT. Get on. One of the things I did was I got on a lot of Facebook groups here in Mauritius just to see. I didn't necessarily interact, but I was, trying to see what they were talking about, what their style was, what the environment was like, and especially with special needs, and that being in that line of ministry. I did connect with those moms here just to find out kind of what the culture is. And here, and I can't speak for Kenya necessarily, but here in Mauritius, we are 30, 40 years behind here. So that's been a learning curve as well. And so definitely do your due diligence on that, because there's things that honestly, if I didn't have help from some trusted Mauritians, I don't know that I would have been able to get done as quickly as possible that I got them done. And so just having an open mind and like you used to tell me in the beginning too, Cassie, quite a bit, you're like, it's okay, we're all learning. It's okay if you bumble through it, and if you make a mistake, so what, but that's that stuff from America coming at us, of you got to get it right and make sure you know what you're doing and you take care of it. You be the person to fix it. And that's just simply not the case. So, and get with other expats as well. When you feel like you need to, and take your own personal space when you feel like you need to as well. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. I would also add to create your business there in the States first before coming. Get that EIN, get that bank account, your business account. And then you can also, that'll be another way to create income for here. I can come up with 5 different businesses off the top of my head like that, that we can actually do. Because, I think we get so fearful, and we just, all we know is America and working for somebody. But just remember, you guys, we built that country. We built it. We know how to invent. We know how this thing does. We know what to do. We have gifts within us. Okay. Your gifts will make room for you. That's a good scripture. Okay. It really will. So don't be afraid to step out. Fears, you throw that fear out the window, because that's going to stop you from moving forward. And if you need to get out, you're so fearful, you're going to get left behind. You don't want that to happen. But I do appreciate you guys for coming on. I think this was amazing. I hope it helped someone to understand the emotional side of it. This was a conversation much needed. The conversation that I don't hear on the internet at all. The real true part of moving, not just to Africa, but just moving, relocating out of overseas, abroad. Nobody's talking about the emotional part of it. And we're going to talk about the process. We're going to talk about marriage in Africa. We'll talk about, we have people who had husbands that didn't come. We have people who have husbands and they, want to go back. We have, we're dealing with a whole lot of issues. We're going to talk about that. So I'm hoping that we can come up with a good time next week, that we can come on next Thursday, next Wednesday, whichever time is better for you ladies. I'll reach out to you and you let me know what's a better time. If we can do it later, that'll be fine. If we can stick with the same time, that's good too. But we want to just keep this going, because I think this is great for us to talk about the process. And next week, we're going to try to talk about what is the process. What did you guys do to make this all come to pass? What did you do? What was the steps? Because people need the steps that they don't even, like I didn't know about banking. I didn't have an idea about banking, but we don't talk about that. But I do appreciate each and every last one of you guys for making that time and taking the time to come on here. And I mean, I know we've been on here a while. Spring been over here nudging me. Cassie, Cassie, time. I'm like, well, this is something much needed, and I appreciate you guys for coming on. And with that said, if you guys have anything else you guys want to add, if not, we're going to go. And I do appreciate Vercast coming on. Also, Anissa and Claudia. Go ahead, Nubia.
I just wanted to plug my websites if anyone is interested in
Yes.
consultation that we do at Nuumellz, NUUMELLZS.net. And also Exodus is our expat service for relocation. It's EXODUXZ.app.
Say that again for him, slowly.
Exodus, EXODUXZ.app. Exodus.app. And then Nuumellz, umbrella, Mary, Edward, Larry, Zebra, Sam.net.
Thank you for that. What about you, Lorraine? You want to leave your ministry and how they can contact you?
Oh, yes, through Graceful Guidance, all one word, all lowercase, gracefulguidanceministries.com. And there, you can reach me there. And I have some email that you can reach out and click and get a hold of me.
Okay. You have an email also?
It should, yes, I do. It's all lowercase.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't mind. Also lowercase, Lorraine, LORRD, as in Denise, and Brown, all lowercase, 72 @gmail.com.
All righty. I appreciate you guys, Spring.
Thank you so much for having us.
I appreciate you guys. But with that said, we're done. We will talk later, you guys. And thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate your help. Thank you. And take care. Have a good day, okay? Thank you.